hands with the summit and everyone talking about the specter of climate change, where we are at. We've seen countries now pledging eye-popping figures in terms of mitigating climate, of course, effects here in Africa. And we hope that conversation will not taper off. It will continue apace, even as they take the Nairobi Declaration to COP28 later this year. And of course, also, we try and make sure we take care of Mother Earth, that we've not really inherited from our ancestors, but we borrowed it from our children. We have our guest already here up and early. Fred Ogola, who's an economist, is here up and early. And also we have Dr. Isaac Kaluo Green, who is the party leader of the Green Thinking Action Party, already in studio with us just to hear their comments. Fred, good morning, good to see you.
Morning, Devan.
Has it been a long week for you, or it's been a short week, or it's been an intense week? What sort of a week have you had?
Intense and short, because you see, Operation Ugatuzo Jamii is doing so much. I think you can see that. I told you last week we're going to sue the president for the utterances. He has been sued. He's
been sued? He's not really apologized?
No, of course, court will have to give direction and give him 60 days to apologize. If not, then the court will order Parliament to begin impeachment proceedings against the president. Because you see what's happening, Devan. Everybody is trying to use those words everywhere. Yesterday I was driving and then somebody just showed me 3, which means that even people are showing their wives 3, people are showing kids 3. And it's not something we want to inherit. We want to forget about it. So the president has to withdraw it and say this is wrong, because he is a leader. Everybody looks after him. So we have to ensure that we take good example from him.
But so, people will say we can actually look at the flip side of it, that there are 3 things, right? The troika, it's always 3. So
no, but I'm saying now it's being used negatively. You know, 3 has always meant the Holy Trinity. The 3 has always meant key pillars when you are cooking ugali.
Yes.
Now it's going to something that leads to threat. You know, so for us, we are against it. Also, we filed a case against the Hustle Fund that should not continue, because you see, the president wants to borrow 20 billion shillings from World Bank to fund Hustler Fund. Yet they say it's a private fund. It has been allocated 10 billion shillings to the budget. Yet they say it's a private fund. And the depositors' money from KCB, Family Bank, are compromised because their money is being used. Because I've done research and found out the money they are saying they put 50 billion shillings in the Hustler Fund kitty, they are actually not put it, because even there's no liquidity. So they are trying to find ways on which they are using some private money or not to make this happen. So I'm telling you, it's been busy. Monday we filed one, Tuesday we filed another one, and yesterday we were at Bomas presenting our memorandum to the National Dialogue team by telling them they should disband, because they have to make that thing a national dialogue. If 2 people are fighting and Kenyans were the suffering, because when 2 elephants are fighting, the grass suffers. How can the 2 elephants invite the 2 grass now to present to them the issues? So this is illegal.
It's illegal.
There should be a national dialogue team, an independent body, where 2 people are fighting go before them. Not that the people are fighting and the one now constituting a panel to review. If you and your brothers are fighting, is it not your father who should call you to ask you what are the issues? How can you and your brother who was fighting call your parents now that you are looking about the issues about the family? I think for me it's a misnomer. It is philosophically unsound.
Unsound. Leave it at that, because I think you'll unpack it along the way as we continue with the show. Dr. Green, good to see you.
Nice to see you, Deval. You doing good?
I'm doing good, thank you.
How's your week been?
My week has been just good, thankfully.
You look so, but you see, you're waking up very early every day.
Yeah, it's part of
working
the territory.
very hard.
Occupational hazards.
There is hope in this country. God loves this country, and there is hope. So I look forward to what we are going to discuss today, knowing very well that the fact that things look a bit gloomy, the fact that our Kenya shilling has been said to be the 6th worst performing currency in Africa, does not mean that we are headed for doom. I believe that there is hope, and something great is going to happen to our nation, and we need to speak hope. So we look forward to a great week. We've been having the Climate Change Summit, and I believe that something tangible may come out of this, and replicating the same back to the community that we have around in Kenya, and then the county dropping it down to the community that they have below them. It's something that is going to help our nation to be a better nation. So there is hope. I believe that we all have to play our role, and the role that we have to play is so specific that I believe that once we start appreciating this, we will get to have a better home, a better county, a better country, and therefore the continent.
And you've been busy as well. I've been reading your articles on climate change as well.
Yes, yes. We got to do these things. That's why I say
it was
that if the moment we realize what we have to do personally, individually, you realize there is so much that we have no time to blame any other person. Yes.
Indeed. Let's see what is fresh off the press this morning. That is just introductory remarks from our panelists this morning. And we shall be discussing a lot of issues, looking at the ODM purge as it is right now. And most of the legislators are also raising hesitation with the double speak and double face and double standards within ODM. We'll talk about inter-party democracy much, much later. But this is what we're working up to on the front page of The Standard today. The bold paper is all about the university fees funding fraud. Administrators are asking freshmen to pay fees before government completes students' categorization that will determine the amount each learner pays, and in breach of ministry circular that warned against charging before the process is complete. That is the story that you want to follow on page 2 of today's Standard. And also still on the front page of the Standard, ODM rebels fight back. It's a pushover in spite of facing career-ending sanctions. MPs insist they have no regrets for cooperating with government, but ODM promises to take fight to their backyards. You have a story on page 8 and 9, and some of the affected ODM rebels are here as well. Senator Tom Ojenda of Kisumu, Rongo MP Paul Abor, we have Bondo MP Gideon Ochanda, we have Langata MP Felix Odiwar, we have Gem MP Elisha Odhiambo, also Suba South MP Karoli Omondi, amongst others. You can follow this story, as I've mentioned, inside the Standard this morning. On the sidebars, we have sweet deal to sugar farmers. That is from Ruto. Government is in the process of paying sugarcane farmers their arrears and relieving companies of more than 117 billion shillings debt they owe government as reforms in the sector start. Today, stakeholders hold their first conference to concretize the process, and this will continue until tomorrow. You have this story on page 6 and 7 of the Standard today. Now, scientists grow human embryo from stem cells. This is the latest development there. You can read on the world pages and find out how this is happening without the fusion of the sperm and the ovum. And that is the story that you want to follow there on page 24 of the Standard this morning. Africa agenda that was left out of climate summit. What is it? You can find all the details on page 10-11. And also Rugby World Cup, France face All Blacks. That is on page 36 of the Standard this morning. Also remember, you have the Pulse magazine coming in handy for you. Friendly fire is what is inside. You can follow the story also on that magazine that comes in handy for you every Friday inside the Standard for the young and young at heart. The Daily Nation expulsion to nowhere is a splash. And looking at the flag of politics, parties have been kicking out errant members, but the never-ending court cases are keeping them in office. Hot air, a probing question. Opposition Chief Raila Odinga, ODM party, has expelled 5 MPs for causing up to President William Ruto at the ruling Kenya Kwanza Alliance. The expectation is that they will lose their seats and occasioned by elections. But ODM and other parties such as Jubilee and Amani National Congress have gone this road in the past and failed. With MPs serving out their terms in Parliament, will Mr. Odinga get a different outcome this time round? That is the abiding question. The story continues on page 4 of the Daily Nation this morning. And how Raila altered party report to save Besaris. This is MPs accusing the party or the party leader, opposition leader Raila Odinga, radically altered the stinging proposals and harsher punishment recommended by the ODM disciplinary committee in a last-minute bid to save 3 rebel MPs. The Nation can now reveal details of a report by the professor, that is Bernard Shihanya, led committee have also lifted the lead on the drama and back and forth between the team and the rebels during the disciplinary hearings. You can follow the rest of the details on page 5 of the Daily Nation this morning. Welcome for you, EACC. Well, no, not welcome, but we will come for you. We'll come for you. EACC warns governors over illegal workers. Governors who hire personal staff beyond the prescribed limit will now be held personally liable to repay public funds paid out as salaries to the illegal employees. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has said. This story continues on page 11 of the Daily Nation this morning. Also, Digital Expo happening in Bomet. Read all about it inside the Daily Nation. Beth Mugo's story. There's a serialization here of her book, and you can read or pick it up in the Daily Nation tomorrow. Let's see what is happening on the Star. Lot to use talks team to create 11 extra counties. Costly. Migori, Meru, Wajir, Busia among counties to be split. 26 MPs petition dialogue team to create 11 extra devolved units. And this story continues on page 4 and 5 of the Star this morning. Gachagua gets warm welcome at the coast. And you can see excited faces there with Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua when he officially opened the Mombasa International Show on Thursday. On the sidebar, Azimio top chiefs slowly embracing Ruto as president. Azimio leaders are apparently climbing down from their long-held position, disapproving William Ruto's legitimacy as head of state. In their recent actions, public remarks and moves, opposition chiefs and politicians appear to be slowly accepting Ruto as their valid president. You have the story on page 6 of the Star this morning. He spent years seeking to be MP and died trying. This is Silas Muriuki, and you can read about his obituary there, that you can spend years looking for something you deeply crave only to hold it briefly before it sublimes into the thin air. Perfectly describes the unfairness of life. Silas Muriuki, the former North Imenti MP, spent 20 years of his life seeking to be elected to Parliament. He won the seat for one term before losing it. And that story continues on page 2. At least he tried. Even within the 20 good years, he got a term. ODM rebels MPs take battle with Raila to tribunal. ODM MPs expelled from the party on Wednesday are now headed to the political party's dispute tribunal in a bid to overturn the verdict. The expelled lawmakers described the decision to eject them as unfair and that which is politically instigated. You have a story on page 8 of the Star this morning. Also remember, you have the CSR Pull-Out magazine coming in handy for you every Friday. Ruto's Pan-African vision awakens fond memories. And you can read all about it inside the Star this morning, a 16-page political pull-out. You have the People Daily. Tax. To tax or not, that is the big question today. All eyes will be on judges. Remember, today is that the day where the Supreme Court will make their landmark ruling on the Finance Act, the finance law in the balance. Supreme Court will this morning make far-reaching ruling on whether KRA can continue collecting revenue as directed by Treasury in groundbreaking petition filed by Senator Omutata. What will this mean? That is a probing question. You have a story on page 4 and 5 of the People Daily. So all the eyes will be trained on the Supreme Court today. Also a landmark ruling on the registration of the LGBTQ that will be happening today. Remember, they had gone to court to challenge the government with the registration of that particular queer community group. Today is when we'll know if that was, and the Supreme Court actually held that it is okay because they have a constitutional right of associations. That is a story that you want to follow inside the People Daily as well. And we'll be looking on those two landmark ruling that will be happening today. This is the People Daily. Omanyala suffers second defeat, finishing behind Jamaican rival in Italy. That is a story that you want to follow on page 29 of the People Daily. And give us 11 counties now. Minority tells Bombers talks team. That also tucked away inside. Rigathi hits out at opposition as he opens ASK. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, Agriculture CS Mythical Lenturi, and KPA Board Chair Benjamin Tayari can be seen here having a jig at the Mombasa Showground, where he presided over the opening of the Mombasa International ASK show yesterday. The show has attracted exhibitors this year, and you can follow exhibitors and 160 local and international exhibitors, I should say. This story continues on page 6 of the People Daily this morning. Urais Khalwale afichua siri. That is what Taifa Leo is holding. Ufichuzi wa Senator kuwa Ruto aliahidi kuunga kiongozi wa Mulembe kwa urais in the year 2032 watikisa Kenya kwanza. Viongozi kutoka jamii ya Waluya walikubali kumuunga mkono Rais William Ruto na serikali yake ya Kenya kwanza alipoahidi kumuunga mkono mmoja wao kumrithi 2032 mwaka 2032. Senator wa Kakamega Boni Khalwale amefichua, and that is the story that you want to follow on page 22. Will these pronouncements or revelation make any discernible difference on the political lineups as it stands right now? Magenge ya Kanjo yatishiao raia. That is the story that you want to follow. Let me just not continue reading that. Let's continue to massacre the good language. Let's see what is happening on the front page of the Business Daily. Kenya diaspora workers now face mandatory welfare levy. That is what we have today as a splash. Proposed schemes seeks to cushion migrant workers' contribution rates to be set in the regulations. And it says all Kenyans working abroad will be required to make mandatory contributions to a state welfare scheme if proposals by the Ministry of Labour are approved. The scheme, known as the Kenya Migrant Workers Welfare Fund, seeks to provide relief assistance to migrant workers, invalidity benefits, medical assistance, and survivor benefits where a migrant worker dies. Every migrant worker will be required to register as a member of the fund before departing the country for the foreign employment. Contingency fees paid by private employment agencies will also be channeled to the fund. That is the story you want to follow inside the Business Daily this morning. And Nairobi hotels relish windfall from luxury suites and scrambles there. It says sweet scrambles. That is, of course, following the Africa Climate Summit that was held here in Nairobi that attracted 20 heads of state. Also, EABL defends Diageo's 22 billion shillings share purchase in Senate. East African Breweries PLC yesterday defended the recent acquisition of an additional 14.97% stake in the company by its parent firm Diageo PLC. Also, insider fraud bleeds circles 118 million shillings in past 2 years. And Watchdog orders sale of Sadolin in paint makers merger deal. You can follow this story inside the Business Daily this morning. And we cross over now to Uganda, where inside the battle for top FDC jobs is the splash. Battle knives here are drawn, and you can read all about it on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Monitor in Uganda. And also Busoga Kingdom unveils Jovia Mutesi as next queen. And you can see Jovia Mutesi there. She is the next queen there in the Busoga Kingdom, all happening in Uganda. All right, on the side, but we have a scoop. Maurice Kirwa, a star, returns to stage. You remember Maurice Kirwa? Genda Ukole. Remember that song? Genda Ukole. Genda Ukole.
Kumbe Kiswahili inakutesanga bro.
Genda Ukole. I think that is Uganda there. You go and fish out, eh? You should think about tomorrow. Not only today. That is the Daily Monitor there. Also, we have the Citizen Tanzania, Dar Declaration, as heads of state convened in Dar for the Africa Food System Forum yesterday. Resolutions were made about taking a stand for the future, for the future continent. The continent wants to create with regional trade, youth empowerment, food security, and sustainability being the most amplified areas. You have a story inside the Citizen this morning. In Rwanda, how Kigali became Africa's top smart city. The Kigali Green City project was initially estimated to cost $5 billion. And this story is well laid out for you on page 4 of the New Times. Rwanda Forensic Institute set to conduct research to advance services. And we can see Lieutenant Colonel Charles Karangwa, the Director General of Rwanda Forensic Institute, and Anastasi Nabahire, Coordinator of the Justice Sector Secretariat at the Ministry of Justice, during the launch of the Institute's new name on Thursday, September the 7th, Rwanda Forensic Institute, and you can see the new logo as well, Science for Justice. That also you can follow the story on page 3 of the New Times. 5 key elements for smart cities amid population growth, and UNESCO boasts backs B2 turn Rwanda's genocide memorials into World Heritage Sites, and also Kabarebe reassures of Rwanda's security for the next 100 years. You can follow the story on page 4 of the New Times this morning. Lastly, I may just show you what is on the front page of East Africa blocking new push to keep out mitumba imports. This has been the splash the whole of this week. Uganda, Kenya are taking after Rwanda, which effected the ban, a decision fraught with political and economic repercussions. And you can follow the story on page 4 of the East African. As I've said before, this has been a very hot flashpoint issue in this country, especially harking back to the last elections, where some people also lost a chunk of votes because of the Mitumba debate. DR Congo's unwanted peace mission. Authorities in the Democratic Republic of Congo blame radical groups of fueling protest against peacekeepers. That story on page 5 of the East African this morning. Lastly, let's see what is on the front page of the China Daily. Australia aims for steady ties. That is what we have. Premier told here, joint efforts bring positive results. Lee notes in meeting with Prime Minister Albanese, and you can follow the story inside the China Daily this morning. Wow. This is a devastation that was experienced there in Brazil, where there was a cyclone, and you can see damaged car lie piled up on Wednesday in Mucum, southern Brazil, Rio Grande do Sul state, after deadly cyclone. The cyclone and subsequent flooding battered 60 cities, killing 36 people, actually 39. The number is still ticking and many are missing, and leaving around 2,300 people homeless. Local authorities say this is a devastation of climate change as it is right now. Just looking at this cyclone in Brazil that is continuing to raise down buildings and claim lives. That is the reality of the climate change. Nature's fury. That is what we have on the front page of the China Daily. US urged to remove all additional tariffs for China. That is another story to want to follow inside the China Daily this morning. Right, those are some of the stories that are in our dailies today. I shall be showing you what we have on the front page of The Economist, of the Newsweek, also the week in the UK, the week in the US as well, as we continue with the conversation. But let's buckle down to some of the stories that we want to discuss this morning with our panelists. And we begin with what is on the party politics table, where opposition leader Raila Odinga stands accused for applying double standards in dealing with ODM party rebels. The decision to punish legislators for their association with the government has elicited sharp reaction and criticism to the party leader, who has reportedly allowed governors to commit the very crime that has seen 5 legislators expelled from the party. And as our senior political affairs reporter, Chris Thyroid, informs us, the expelled MPs have indicated that they have no apologies to make.
Hours after ODM's National Executive Council, which is chaired by party leader Raila Odinga, resolved to expel 5 legislators for associating with Kenya Kwanza administration and working closely with President William Ruto, the legislators did not hesitate to respond. On his social media page, Langata MP Felix Odiwuor Elias Jalango posted a photo of him carrying a box load of evidence during the presidential petition last year. And the message read, and I quote, "No trial is too heavy to lift," end of quote. On his part, Kisumu Senator Professor Tom Ojende indicated that he has no apologies to make and that he will continue working with the president.
You know very well what I've done for the party myself, the journey we've been, and I'm happy that it has taken a different time to apologize. Having met the president. There's no apology about it. I went there for development.
But the expulsion of the 5 MPs seem to have opened a can of worms, exposing the party leader and his stand on democracy. Raila is already on record allowing governors elected on an ODM ticket to work with the Kenya Kwanza government under the leadership of President Ruto.
Sisi tumekata magavana wetu wote. Mtume anatuambia nini? Tumwambia kwamba fanyeni kazi na serikali. Tunakataza. Kila mara tunamwambia ufanye kazi na serikali ya juu. Manake haiwezi kuwa sasa tuko na serikali ya nani? Serikali ni moja.
On the other hand, he has been harsh and not mincing his words against ODM legislators who have decided to work with the current administration.
If you want to go and see Mr. President as a person of power in State House, go. But if you want to go and talk about issues that affect the party, then you must give him permission by the party before you go to see the president. What you see, these people must be seen for what they are, traitors in the cause of a revolution.
ODM governors seem to be comfortable with his plan.
Siku moja usiku tukiwa na gavana huyu tunakunywa chai na mahindi ya kuchoma na wakina Gladys wanga walikuwa pale wanakula hiyo mahindi ya kuchoma na chai. Sasa huku nje watu wanatudanganya, msifanye kazi na hii serikali, na jioni wanakula mahindi na chai.
The first-time MP Oduor bore the brunt of his close relationship with the president when he was forcefully ejected from an Azimio meeting in Manzoni and accused of being a rebel. ODM party leader John Mbadi has already informed those expelled that they still have an opportunity to be pardoned by the party should they show up and either apologize to the party for their rebellion or give valid reasons for their rebellion. Chris Dairu, KTN News, Nairobi.
All right, let's turn the crack now to sugar matters, where more than 14 governors from the cane-growing regions are expected to attend today's sugar conference to be held at Masinde Muliro University of Science and Technology in Kakamega. The conference seeks to address issues affecting the sector, including cane development, debt write-off, and farmers' welfare, among others. As Alan Ochen reports, farmers have opposed a proposal to merge millers that are in close proximity.
The much-hyped sugar conference that seeks to address the ailing sugar sector is expected to be held at the Masinde Muliro University in Kakamega Friday and Saturday, where an array of issues are expected to be addressed. Key to note is cane development, debt write-off, management of the millers, farmers' welfare, among others.
We're expecting to have discussions around how to come up with solutions to revitalize the sugar sector. And some of the areas of discussion, of course, will be looking at cane production, which is a critical component. We'll delve in issues around the farmers' welfare. Of course, the pricing of the sugar that we produce here will be a factor. One of the other discussions that is critical is around the management model of the sugar sector, which will be discussed. People will bring around some thought leadership with regard to appropriate management model so that we can see a difference in our sugar, especially the public sugar factories.
During his tour last week, President William Ruto undertook to sanitize the sugar sector by overhauling management of the cane millers before injecting funds to breathe life in them. The head of state registered his dissatisfaction with how state-owned millers were limping, yet private-owned were doing well. The president insisting on investing in cane development, even as leaders called for a fair playing field in the industry.
We want machines zetu zifanye kazi without interference of another machine. Kama Butali inafanya, ifanye. Rai afanye na mashini yake vizuri. Na mimi naongea because I am a farmer. Anyone who will criticize me, nikishaongea, nitamuuliza, take me to your sugarcane farm. Nipeleke kwa miwa yako, nithibitishe you are a farmer before you talk. And if you know you are not a farmer, shut up.
The Agriculture Committee in the National Assembly during its fact-finding mission 5 months ago was appraised of the dwindling fortunes of farmers, which were blamed on poor cane prices per ton, unfair competition, zoning of cane catchment areas, among others. This is also expected to form fodder for the conversation. Another idea on the table was to merge millers who are in close proximity due to shrinking of land owing to surging population. Though it might be floated, it has been opposed.
We are against this issue of merger in totality. The reason being, we are not sure where are these workers going to be. For example, the proposed merger for Chemelil and Muhoroni. Where will the workers from one of the companies go? Because there has been a proposal that Muhoroni is going to be a center of maybe collecting cane. Now, those workers in Muhoroni, where will they go?
Why is here I cannot advocate for merging of these two companies because they are distinct. And at least they are complying with the regulations that were set by the Kenya Sugar Board then in terms of the distance between them.
As the sugarcane growing region gears up for the big conversation on the revitalization of the sugar sector, optimism is palpable that the sugar conference will address the ailing sector for once and for all. Alan Ochanda, KTN News.
And we do hope that the true north and sobriety will be found in that particular sector, even from this particular conference. Meanwhile, the battle for boundary review has commenced with a section on members of parliament calling for a creation of additional 11 counties in the devolved structure of government. This comes as the dialogue team continued with public participations on issues lined up for the discussions by the 10-member team. As KTN's political affairs reporter Daniel Kariuki now explains, the lawmakers argue that the existing boundaries, which provisionally adopted districts as counties, have unintentionally led to economic, social and political marginalization.
As the National Dialogue team prepares to kick off talks with urgent matters, among them the constitution of Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, groups have already continued to present their memorandum to the committee. 26 members of parliament are now calling for the creation of additional 11 counties in the devolved structure of governance.
I think we are here simply to make a call for a further review of the boundaries of the various counties as they exist today.
This caucus has a point. Once we appreciate that fact and as a country we accept that there is that need, then once the process kicks off, then parameters will have to be set to determine how to divide.
Watu wengi wanafikiria wakati wajumbe wanapigania counties ziwe ya kwamba pengine anahitaji gavana ya hile, pengine nini. Hakuna kitu kama hiyo. Hii ni uongozi tunaleta karibu na mwananchi.
This means that should the proposal be passed and adopted by Kenyans, there will be 58 county governments.
Where I'm coming from is I feel the Nyanza region was actually shortchanged when the counties were being created. We ended up with 6. We should have probably had 8.
Tumeketi wabunge kutoka sehemu zote za siasa. Tumeungana kutoka pande ya serikali na pande ya upinzani. Hakuna boundaries.
In a memorandum presented to the National Dialogue Committee, the caucus argues that the creation of the additional counties presents a compelling solution to mitigate the effects of marginalization.
Now the Constitution gives us an opportunity to consult amongst each other, public participation. We are also happy that this is a process that will be prosecuted in Parliament. And I believe this National Assembly is mature. They are going to be able to have a deliberation that is going to bring out all those issues that you are raising.
Kisii County has got now 9 constituencies, receiving around 1 billion every financial year from the exchequer system. If now we create Ugucha from Kisii County, we are using the existing boundaries of constituencies. Now Ugucha will be having 4 constituencies.
Meanwhile, the 8-member technical committee will on Monday table a raft of proposals that have been harmonized after submissions from the public. The technical teams from Kenya Kwanza and Azimio have been holding separate discussions to prepare their submissions, but will harmonize the details and make plenary submissions to the dialogue committee at the Bomas on Monday. Daniel Karaoke, KTN News.
All right, more and more. More continues. All right, let's see what the Deputy President was saying. And he has once again condemned the opposition led by Azimio leader Raila Odinga for vowing not recognizing the presidency of William Ruto. Speaking during the official opening of the ASK show in Mombasa, Rigathi Gachagua said that the just concluded Africa Climate Summit has affirmed that Ruto is a respected leader beyond the borders. The show has attracted 150 exhibitors, up from 130 in 2022. The exhibitors insisted that Kenya is ripe for smart agriculture due to many innovations taking place.
Kwa Rais, wimbo wa 3 When the Saints katika mwendo wa kinyonga, utunzi wake Arnold Walters.
Tunataka kuambia viongozi wetu Kenya waangalie vile rais wetu ameheshimika katika bara la Afrika. Viongozi wote katika bara la Afrika wamemtambua Rais William Ruto kama kiongozi ambaye anaweza ongoza Afrika. Kwa hivyo wale wetu hapa wachache walikuwa hamtambui Rais William Ruto kama kiongozi wa Kenya, wanatakiwa wajiulize maswali. Huyo rais huyo ambaye walikuwa wanasema wamtambui kama rais na kiongozi wa Kenya, ametambulika kama kiongozi wa bara la Afrika.
All right. This is what is in the editorial pages, the cartoons today. And this is what Gado has captured for us, the ODM neck, and how we can see the bludgeoning of the legislators who are touted to be the rebels. We gave you the permission to do a handshake with the president. Who gave you the permission to do a handshake with the president? That seems to be the probing question. And you can see they're using the placards there to hit out at the legislators, 5 of them. And there has been, of course, a special umbrage with some of his legislators that they seem to be double-speak within ODM. Where is the inter-party democracy? Right, that is what Gado has captured this morning. And we have in the Star, calm down. Calm down, calm down, down. This seems to be Moses Kuria with his tweets. As you can see it here, I leave it for you to decipher this. If any of you can decipher this, you can tell us what was Moses Kuria tweeting about that is saying, oh, we should calm down. And there's some offers there where it seems to be trading. That is what has been drawn today by Ozone. And so far, so good. And that is the 2027 elections. Deliver what you promised in 2022 fast. It seems every indication right now, looking on the ground of the political landscape, everything is pointing towards 2027. If anything, that you can see also on the front page of Taifa Leo, where we have the Luya Nation speaking out revelations of that particular deal that they had with the deputy president then, who is the president, on the pact for 2032, that particular baton will be passed to the Luya Nation. That is a story. All right. Talking of Luo Nation, Herman Manyora should tell us on that particular pact that Bode Kalole seemed to be talking about. Looking at that.
Of the Luo people.
It's so far, so good. And then we have Kalole over here on the front page of the Taifa Leo saying, viongozi kutoka jamii ya Waluya walikubali kumuunga mkono Rais William Ruto na serikali yake ya Kenya Kwanza alipoahidi kumuunga mkono mmoja wao kumrithi mwaka 2032.
Hizo ni ndoto za Waluya.
Hizo ni ndoto za Waluya.
The Luya, I don't understand these people. You don't dream your way to presidency. President is something you work for. You get it? You don't sit somewhere and start dreaming that you'll be president. In fact, when Musalia Mudavadi came up with the so-called earthquake, we were told he was the one who was going to be the candidate, that Ruto had issues, would have issues running, and therefore he was going to support Musalia Mudavadi. When that didn't look possible, they then said nothing but the running mate. You remember that altercation between them and Rigathi Gachagua, I think. I think Ruto was even out of the country that time. And we were told, no, this seat was reserved for Mount Kenya. What dream is this you're talking about?
It's been already
Please,
negotiated.
You joined willingly, and nobody coerced you. Stay here, but there's nothing for you. Now, when that is settled, they are not the president, they were not the presidential candidate, Ruto was. They were not running mate, Rigathi Gachagua was. Now they are coming up with another dream of 2032. These Luyas, they are embarrassing me. You don't dream your way to the president, my friend. You work for it. And I've argued here before. In fact, in 2027, if Musalia Mudavadi manned up and faced William Ruto, he will be a very competitive candidate for the presidency. Extremely competitive. In fact, I can say, the two candidates who will go for the runoff will be Rigathi Gachagua and Musalia Mudavadi, if they defied Ruto. Those are the two who will go for the runoff. So if Mudavadi wants to be president, if Luyas want the president, the time is 2027, not the dream of 2032. Yes.
Professor Gola, what do you think?
But now that he's in the prophecy mood, what do you have advice for the Kamba community?
The Kamba community, through Kalonzo, that's not a dream. That is a really serious stab if he made it. Assuming Raila Odinga supported him wholeheartedly, not tokenism. If Raila said Kalonzo Tosha, nobody will beat Kalonzo.
Is he likely to do so?
He can, but you won't understand the politicians. So I'm talking about people who do not need anybody's support. Kalonzo needs Raila's support. Mudavadi doesn't need anybody's support.
But then
become president.
Does that mean the Luo community?
He doesn't need to be endorsed by anybody. He just needs to be man enough.
Now that Raila...
To wake up one day and say, we have supported you enough. Do your one term, because we can see there's a lot of mess around. We want to change this country and take it forward. And I'm offering myself for president in 2022. I'm telling you.
But does that mean the end of the Luo community, now that their leader will be...
Why would it be the end?
So what?
Tomorrow is another day.
I'm just taking advantage of this prophecy spirit of the dream. Is around the dream.
Another dream.
You never know what... Yeah, so that you
See, they normally say in the last days, the old men, they'll dream dreams.
Yes.
And the young men will have visions.
He's taken over your role.
No, he's taken it. Yeah,
you take advantage of this.
Let me ask you a question. What are you asking?
No, my question, and I think it is good to tell, because I think we are in a country where we are always thinking of tribal points of view. But then I just wanted you to tell Debal, now that I'm asking on his behalf.
Yes.
The Luo community, what is your advice to them then? Now you have to do a round of the community.
If Raila is not running, the Luo community will do well to listen to what he says, number one. And number two, also to realize that they have been supported by people across the country. Imagine for Raila to get 7 million votes. When he doesn't start with a huge vote base like the Kikuyus will do. Kibaki would start with millions of votes. You know? Dito Uhuru Kenyatta. Ruto working with the Kikuyu, he starts with like 4 or 5 million before he talks. Raila starts with 1 million plus, maybe 1.4 million votes. And manages to go across the country in a near impossible task or feat and manages those 7 million. Which means the support Raila and the Luo have been getting from the other communities is so huge that kurudisha mkono shouldn't be an issue to them.
Prof. Ogola.
I have a problem with, sorry, Prof. With all respect, I'm happy at least to share a podium with you.
Oh, it's the first time?
Yes, I enjoy a lot what you do.
Thank you, sir.
And sometimes we think the same. Also, a lot of the times we have, academics is very important because we talk about collegiality, where people are allowed to disagree.
Yes.
And that is the beauty of it. If you find any single university where professors should think the same way, that's the end of education. Because that's what we talk about schools of thought. Schools of thought. So, Prof, I enjoy your school of thought generally.
Thank you.
So on the point of the Luo Nation, I think that I don't care about how much support you have been given. I care what has been the benefit. And I also care the price we have paid. At what price has the Luo Nation paid for Raila? Bullet wounds. On Monday, I'm in Kisumu to put a petition on people who are killed in Alenda. They were moved from a home and killed. If you look at even post-election violence, look at even the numbers on Mandamano, just look at the people who have died, mostly Luos. So they have not actually enjoyed those 7 million votes. Tell me whether 7 million votes has put food on the table for the Luos, has paid school fees for them. Luos have schools in Luo Nyanza they cannot afford school fees for. Somebody comes from Meru, from Central, to study in Jaramogi Odinga University, the one in Bondo. And the guys, just neighbors to Bondo, cannot afford school fees. Leave alone fare. For them, they can walk to the campus and they can't afford. So the poverty levels are rising in Nyanza, in spite of the 7 million votes we've gotten for 5 terms of the presidency by Raila Odinga. It is not his fault. I'm just asking, if we are only counting on votes, has vote ever put food on the table for people? For us, those votes have been a curse to us because when the votes come, then we say our votes have been stolen, then we are beaten, and we suffer. So according to me, I would like to look at it this way. I don't want to look about who will be a president from which tribe. My looking is, will Kenya be truly liberated until it doesn't matter which tribe is in State House? And for me, the most important thing is, look at what happened in the US. Democrats time, Republican time. Then they said, oh, Democrats and Republicans are the same. Let's look for a black American president. Now, Obama became president. Blacks were thinking it's their time. Then the day Obama is sworn in, the first night in White House, a black is shot in Pennsylvania Avenue. Then the blacks discover that it doesn't matter who is in White House. Then now the business people say, let's front Trump is a businessman. He will care about business, not politics. Look at what has happened. He started eating into their business, competing with them, not paying taxes. Look at all those allegations. So I'm trying to say, for me, the world should do this. We've had several people coming from Kikuyu. Kikuyu have discovered it does not matter whether Kikuyu is in State House or not. We have to work. Kalenjins have discovered that too. Why don't Luos also wake up to discover that it doesn't matter whether a Luo is in State House or not? And then also, lawyers also have to realize that it does not matter. And then people discover what matters is that to get a competent leader to lead the nation and remove this. But of course, I won't tell you that Kenya is there. People are still on tribal arithmetic. For me, if you say, Musalia Mudavadi need to man up enough, already you have disqualified him because that is not his quality. He cannot. And I will tell you something, Deval. I was privy. I used to advise Mudavadi on many things. But I sat with so many people. I went to Moses Wetangula and talked to him to support Mudavadi for 2017. We discussed. Even when NASA was found on Riverside Drive when I was seated, William Kira was seated, Musalia was seated, and we discussed about creating a NASA, but I took it up. So the question, what I got from Moses Wetangula, when I sat with Moses Wetangula, I sat with the Jirongo, what they told me, Professor, we respect you. But let me tell you one thing, why I cannot support this man. This man lost the most, don't talk about 2027. This man was supposed to be president in 2002.
Yes.
What happened? He was the vice president. So Sally Kosgei, arranged for a meeting between him and Moi in State House Nakuru so that he can say he wants to be the president. And all Moses Wetangula, Jirongo, all these guys are sad. Even Ruto was supporting him for it. William Ruto was supporting his candidature. So that's how William is very good. He asked that you go to State House. Sally Kosgei will give you 4 eyes meeting with the president and say what you want.
Yes.
So during the 4 eyes meeting, the guy was sitting by fire, eating dinner with Moi, and they talked, and Moi found out for then 1 hour, he does not really understand what was the objective of the meeting. Then Moi tell you, excuse me, what do you think if we front Uhuru as our candidate? Then you say, yes, that's fine. You know, you are on a date with a girl. You have admired for years and years, and you are seated there, you can't tell her, let's have a date. I mean, with lack of courage. In fact,
not everyone says.
Sally was disappointed.
You can also just push
Everyone was disappointed. If you cannot be man enough to ask, you know, some people can't say, I want to be president, but if you ask them, go in private and pray and ask God to make you president, they can't even face God and tell God, God, I want to be president. They cannot even mention that. They are even scared. So this is Musalia Mudavadi for you. And then lastly, if I tell you, there are few overrated politicians who likes enjoying power with no responsibility. Prime CS position is powerful, but there's no responsibility. For the longest time, Raila Odinga has been powerful, isn't it? Head of opposition. If Kenya Power goes off, does he have a responsibility? If there's no water. So some of these people like enjoying power where there is no responsibility. Presidency has responsibility. Because when power goes off, you'll be asked. When there's no water, you'll be asked. When shilling goes bad like it is now going, you'll be asked. But if the shilling goes bad, you ask Raila Odinga. But does he not have power he enjoys? So I'm saying some of these people want to enjoy. Me, I'm a prime CS. You go to Western for a tour. Your office is doing completely nothing. Tell me what the prime CS office has done. Totally nothing, according to me. But going to tour in Western Province, you are becoming, let's say, an MC in a presidential function. How can a speaker of National Assembly become an MC in a presidential function? You know, all these things are power with no rest. That's what they enjoy. I'm telling you, they don't want to be president. They cannot have the manners that you're talking about. The people who could be man enough could be the guy you underestimate. For example, Brian Weke could be a man enough to say,
oh, yes.
Let's see if he's let me see from me if he's before we take a short break as well. Brian.
This Fred Ogola, I think he's a good man. And he's a very textbook sort of thinking guy. When he says that it does not matter who you are, you just need to be a leader who will take care of Kenyans' issues. You know, sometimes we behave like we've just landed from Mexico or from America. We live in a country where only 2 tribes have ruled this country. And we know what happens. We know that once you become a leader of this nation, then clearly look at the appointments. They are so skewed. Unless you do not understand how machinations work in this country, then you can bring for us those textbook issues that it does not matter.
Correct.
First, I want to agree with Professor Herman Manyora. If Mudavadi continues this way, this is the end of Mudavadi. Because you cannot purport to want to lead people, yet you've not run for elections for a number of years. When was the last time did you see Musalia Mudavadi on the ballot? Tell me.
2013.
2013. How many elections have we had since then? Then automatically, after you've propelled yourself, after you have been able to set proper PR processes to the level where you are now called a principal, then when the time is right, you go and tell us that you're going to make a big statement. And the big statement is that you want to support a younger presidential candidate who wants to run for another 10 years, then we'll determine who becomes the next president. Then you come and tell us that, you know, we had agreed that now you will help us. presidency is never given. And if the last election is anything to go by, where Raila thought that he was going to be given that presidency, clearly it is not given. You have to look for it. You have to literally run to every corner of this country and show that you're man or woman enough to be elected. Musalia has signed a pact with William Ruto to support him for 10 years. How long will Musalia, how old will he be in the next 10 years?
71, 72.
Somebody who has not been in the ballot, and you want to run against the likes of Akina Gachagua, who will be a deputy president, has been seen on the ballot for 10 years. You will be running maybe against Kalonzo Musyoka, who will be on the ballot the election before. Really, unless you want to tell us that Herman Manyora is that candidate or somebody else, clearly that is not going to happen. Unless, as Herman says, Prof, that he runs in the next election.
That's the only chance he has.
If he plays fourth fiddle, because it is not even third fiddle, clearly he will be irrelevant. Now, Fred, the Luo community, I think you need to understand them. The Luo community, they are not killed for Raila. The Luo community believes in certain fundamental freedoms. The Luo community believes in certain fundamental democratic processes. The Luo community believes in the right thing. You go and read something called Kitwage Tembewa about the Luo community. You will understand it later.
Translate.
They are people who love justice. They love fairness. And they have passion to fight for that which they feel is right. They don't fight for Raila Odinga. They fight for the people of this country. They fight for Kenya. They fight for us to ensure that certain principles that have been fought for have to be enshrined and kept within this country. And I can tell you for a fact, as Prof says, the Luo communities have been supported by many communities. And if you ask me the next election, I think we as the Luo community will not have a candidate. It is a high time that we support the people who have supported us. However, if you look at that support base, the only probable one is Kalonzo Musyoka. The likes of Akina Musalia, they were with us until they were not with us. When we went to Uhuru Park, we were with them. How the Nigerian numbers came in, we don't know. You remember the Nigerian numbers? Wetangula was nowhere to be seen. Musalia was nowhere to be seen. Now in the last dispensation, if only Musalia and Wetangula supported the Raila's candidature, it was a done deal. So we will give back. But I can tell you for a fact, Kalua Green, start doing press-ups. It will be you people.
Press-ups. Time for press-ups a bit. We take a short break. It's 7 o'clock on the nose. You're watching Uongozi today here on Morning Prime, where we critically analyze, of course, the leadership of the day, looking at different facets as well of leadership. When we circle back, we continue with more. We shall be looking at the inter-party democracy of ODM as well. Don't go away.